But yeah, no, look, the marketing and the sales and the leadership were all great sessions. So it's a perfect segue into where we're going now around the business development. You know, because once all this stuff starts working, you have your business goals, you've got to plan what you're doing, and you've got to really try to get that success long term, right? So, yeah, this is going to be really cool, this one. It's sort of like, you know, how does it fit in? We could have started with business, but we're going to end with business. You know, what comes first, the plan? You know, is it a chicken or egg type moment? But yeah, the business development's where you get to next naturally. It's just going to happen where you have to stop, take stock, and have a look at everything holistically. So this is going to be a pretty cool session, right? And, you know, so if I look at Courtney, Courtney's got the Entrepreneur Facilitator program here, actually works with us here at the Hub in Sawtell. So we actually can sort of wave to each other just across the room. But Courtney has an amazing Entrepreneur Facilitator program that he's got here. He runs out of the Hub, which is awesome. Kerry Grace. So we actually got all Australians this time and actually all locals, which is awesome. Kerry Grace is from just down the road at about 45 minutes and is currently the CEO of Regional Development Australia. Also, I mean, I could talk for an hour on you, Kerry, with all the things you've done from book writing to, you know, the latest little book venture here, the children's book. And yeah, so it's been good. And Lynda and I, you're the newest one that I've connected with just recently. But, you know, you've done a lot of travel. You've got a lot of life experience. And you've got your life mastery now, which you're doing, which is hitting its strides. But you've got a really good array of information and experience that you're bringing to the party, which is excellent. So, but we're now down to the business side of the business. So what we'll do is we'll kickstart with who wants to go first.
I'll jump in there, Scotty, if you like. Yeah, I guess I was going to talk about my tips this year are using events to grow your business. You know, I previously spent 10 years in event development, and I've established 2 businesses now, and I guess events have always been a core part of building a business for me. You know, we had the conversation, Scotty, where does this fit in? You know, we've had a marketing session and a leadership session and a sales session, and I think events fits into all those parts of the business. So I guess my tips, you know, have a purpose for your events. You know, if it's a leadership thing, you know, it could be around rewarding staff, sales and marketing. It could be around launching new products or promoting new products. It could be around rewarding existing clients. It could be around attracting new clients. So, yeah, tip number one is have a purpose for your events. And my other tip for events is bringing in that Scottyism of business judo. You know, leverage your events, collaborate, work with partners. Leverage other opportunities that are happening in the region. For example, a lot of small business coaching. So last October was Small Business Month in this region. So we leveraged off the marketing and those kind of things that were happening. So yeah, and I think business, at the end of the day, business, you need to find the fun in business. You know, business can be serious, it can be stressful. But we got into business to share a passion with people. You know, I heard someone else about falling out of love with your business, and I think, you know, sometimes we've probably all been there. And I think sometimes a great event within your business can be the difference between, you know, falling back in love with your business. So for me, my big tip for 2021, and you know, 2020 was hard with COVID because the events industry, you know, was the hardest hit, and running those events, I know we were really impacted by COVID. But 2021, you know, certainly for us and for our business, it's about yeah, getting stuck back into some great events.
Excellent. So over to me now. You're right to go last, Lynda.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So I'm actually going to give some tips on grant writing today. Grant writing's been a large part of my career, particularly with government contracts. And the couple of tips that I wanted to give, I guess they'll probably be, well, grant writing, the grants I can point you in the direction of are more specific to the Australian market. But these tips are very universal across the world. The first thing you need to realise is if you're looking for a grant to grow your business, you need to be prepared before you go in. So I'll hear people say things like, oh, but I only had 6 weeks to do it. Well, do you know what? You didn't only have 6 weeks to do a business plan or to get your documentation together or to get your financials done. I've just put up inside of the system, there's a free course of mine that you can access on grant writing, and I've included in that a 25-tip PDF, and that has your grant writing toolkit in it. So if you don't have those things together, if you're going to be looking for grants, there's something that you can get together at any stage, and that every grant will need it. Now, I'm not saying that because I'm a mean, nasty person. I'm saying that because I've made the mistake before, and 5 seconds before an application closed, I had somebody have to take a photograph of a business registration certificate on the wall of the organisation whose grant was going in. Now, that garnished $3.4 million, so that last heart palpitation was probably well and truly worth it. But there's no reason why you can't be prepared and ready to get towards your grant. So that's the first tip. And the second tip is know when a grant is right for you. Now, I'm going to let you in on a top secret piece of information from I've now been in a government funded role for 4 years. You get used to seeing, and I'm going to very unceremoniously and maybe get sacked when I call them tire kickers. Some people fund their businesses entirely on grants. And if you think that people like me can't see you coming, you're kidding yourself. A business should never be funded only by grants. In fact, it is the worst way to fund a business because it will have a set of criteria that could actually send you broke. Government grants require a certain amount of reporting. It requires templates. They require networks. They require you to be smiling in photo opportunities. All of these things could be detrimental for your business and take you away from what it is that you're really wanting to do. So I also see a lot of businesses and community groups get what we call mission drift because of a grant. So if you spend all of your time going around chasing grants and funding, what you might find is that one day you're delivering services, maybe services to empower women, and the next day you're all of a sudden working with young people entirely. And that could change your entire business model as well as the staff that you've got recruited into the business. So in the Australian landscape, particularly New South Wales, there are a lot of grant applications or grant opportunities available at the moment. I want you to think very clearly before you do apply for them to make sure that this is really the directions that you're wanting to take your business. And yeah, back to the first tip, if you're going to go down the grant rabbit hole, make sure that you're prepared.
Excellent. Sorry, I was just going to make a comment. You know, we've connected with quite a few businesses who they might only be going for a small grant. It might be 10 or 20,000, but you know they're talking about changing their whole business structure. It's like, oh, I'm going to change from a partnership to a not-for-profit or something like that, and it's kind of like, well, you know, just slow down. You've got to be, you know.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Those things.
Excellent. I'll jump in now then too. So I'm a transformational coach and mindset specialist. So I guess what I want to share with you today in relation to the business development, or a lot of you are business owners that have showed up today, is your mindset in business. And I'm not sure if everybody realises that we actually, and science has now proven this, operate 95% from our unconscious mind. So there's only 5% that we're actually aware of. So you don't know what you don't know that you'll never know, basically. And so what I do as a mindset specialist is help update that unconscious mainly programming that gets set so that you can, you know, update our phones and our iPads and our computers, but we can also update our mindset and our programming in the mind. So I guess, you know, there's 5 key areas of life mastery that I really focus on, and business is one of them. So business and career mastery. So, you know, sometimes we're really good in business and we're good at what we do, but we're not necessarily good at running a business. So some of the things that Scotty teaches as well is how do we leverage our time, and how do we sort of outsource maybe some of the things that we want to do. And, you know, Kerry said, talking about grants, how can we sort of position ourselves better, and also there Courtney with events and things like that. So just looking at how do we leverage our time and our resources, and and what goals do we have? Because then another thing that one of my other points today too is around your setting your goals in alignment with your values. So what are your values? The values are your drivers, and they determine where you spend your time and who you spend it with, and also typically where you spend your money. So sometimes someone might say to me, oh, Lynda, I can't afford the coaching, yet if their TV breaks down tomorrow, they'll find the money from somewhere. And that's just because they value their TV more than they value investing in themselves. And again, that comes back to the mindset. It's not that one's right or wrong, it's just that they're different. Or you might have a friend and you might ask them to do something with you and they go, oh, sorry, I can't afford that. And the next minute they're going on a holiday. It's like just that they value the holiday more than they value what you wanted to do with them. So again, they're not right or wrong. And they also determine what's important to us, okay? So it's important to know in relation to setting your goals for 2021, for your business in particular, we want to make sure that like our business values are in alignment with our lifestyle values. Because we don't want to buy ourselves a job. We want the life, the business, the lifestyle to fit into the business, not the other way around. So we have our business and it fits into our lifestyle. So you want that work-life balance at the end of the day, because we can have different values for different areas of our life. We can have our business values and our lifestyle values, but we want the business to fit into the lifestyle so that we are living the life that we do want, and ultimately it becomes part of that. I know, Scotty, you talk a lot about, I don't feel like I work, I do what I love and I love what I do, and it's all just blended into one. And ultimately that's the goal of what you're wanting to do. I just want to share too that with values, we can have different meanings. We're meaning-making machines as human beings. And so how we view something is like an employer might say to me, Lynda, I'm paying all my staff more money, but they're still not happy. And that's because value, money's not their driver. They might value a day off, or you telling them they've done a good job, or they might value a gift voucher. Or alternatively, I can have an employee come in and say, I'm wanting to earn more money, but I'm still not getting it. But we elicit their values and it's not even on the list. Or they might have a values conflict where they feel like they've got to work hard to earn money. And it's like, not necessarily. Richard Branson has a lot of fun, earns a lot of money. So how to work smarter, not harder, and update the programming of that side of it as well. So yeah, just bringing it back to the other 5 masteries I commented after, but hopefully you can find that interesting and a little bit relatable. Over to you, Scotty.
Lynda, business mindset is such a huge thing, and we've been fortunate enough to connect with loads of small businesses. There are cases where we come across 2 businesses with exactly the same concept and idea, and one flies and one doesn't. I think we saw last year, some business closures, some businesses exactly the same closed, and some thrived by the end of the year. And I think that business mindset is just as important often as the product that you're offering, is being able to, and one of the biggest challenges, just being able to maintain that positive business mindset.
I agree with that so much. I was reflecting on my business Evolve Network. Well, it's nearly 20 years old now. And through the years of Evolve existing, it's always made the amount of money that I've needed it to make. And yet when I was immersed very much in the business, every year I would freak out about it not making the money that I wanted it to make, even though I knew that it would happen. So that mindset I found could easily give me the death wobbles if I didn't stay on top of it.
Absolutely. And it's a lot of the stuff that's at the unconscious level too. We get programmed from the age of 0 to 7, and we grow up with that program. I mean, you do have other imprint ages as well, but typically what you're working on as an adult today is a lot of that unconscious stuff we're not even aware of, and it's affecting us today. That's the thing. So how we do one thing can be how we do everything, so it can reflect in other areas. So you might show up in another area, but it can be affecting the business. For example, somebody has an issue in their relationship, or they think the business is a problem, but they have an issue in their relationship. Well, they start working on the relationship and all of a sudden the business is doing well again. So it's interesting.
My business lasted longer than my marriage, just saying.
Well, that's good.
But after starting my first business, my business library was full of, Richard Branson books and all those types of ones. And then as soon as I started my first business, that my business library is now full of personal development and well-being books and all those kind of things.
Excellent. Well, we become what we hang around, or where we spend our time, So that must be a value of yours then, Courtney.
Yes. Yeah. And to be honest with you, that's part of the reason I love events is, you know, I did find in business, I kind of got to a point where I did fall out of love with business. And, you know, for me, you know, I've heard people talking earlier about, you know, the number one person is the client, the customer. In the end, I got selfish and decided the number one person was me in business. So fortunately, my avatar clients have generally been me, you know, so when I put on an event that I love, and generally my clients enjoy them as well, which is good.
That's good.
But often for me, events have been about creating something that I enjoy, that brings me passion in business, I guess.
Courtney, what are your tips in events to make sure that everybody has the capability to be part of the event and to get something? Because, you know, an introvert, for example, might be more likely to be a bit standoffish. And how do you cater to things like that?
I think it's really important. The role of the host is really important. And you know, for me, I spent 5 years in a restaurant, and it's really understanding. Yeah, everyone's different. You know, some customers were really high maintenance and wanted a lot of attention, and other customers wanted, you know, little attention. If they wanted attention, they would come up. So for me, you know, events are they're very rewarding, but they're also stressful because I'm very mindful of all the people in the room, and you know, making sure that everyone's having a good time. And so for me, yeah, it really is about you know, playing the role as a host and being a good host, I guess. And I think it's important, you know, I read somewhere that it's important that your business personality comes out in your events. You know, sometimes, you know, we're talking about those avatar clients, and sometimes events are just a way for potential clients to decide whether they want to be part of what you do or whether they don't. It can be kind of a fleshing it out. So I think it's important that you as a business owner are involved, and the business personality, your personality, comes out through those events.
Absolutely.
Lynda, with mindset change, do you think, can people do that themselves without a guide? Or is it something that's really a guide or a mentor or a coach is really essential?
Well, I guess you're preaching to the converted, because it's changed my life. So I still work with a coach. Look, you can do certain things yourself, but as I mentioned before, there's only 5% that you're aware of. So I guess for me, where I come from and all the things that I've studied is, if we want that permanent change, you know, if we want that permanent change, success and fulfillment, then you need to be able to access the unconscious mind. You need to be able to have that program updated. And for me, that's what I've learned working on myself over many years. That has been the key difference, because you can't see your own blind spots. So you don't even know what it is. You don't know what you don't know. And myself included, I can have all the knowledge and experience in the world, but I'm still a human being like anybody else. And so that's why I still coach. But obviously, you know, the more self-aware that you are, that emotional awareness, that emotional intelligence and conscious awareness, sure, there's lots of things that we can also do to help ourselves and create change as well. And one of the things I'm big on is teaching people tools and techniques that they can use so that they can learn, you know, how to deal with a situation anywhere, anytime. So I think empowering people and putting tools in their hands is really important so that they can do that conscious change. But I guess a lot of change, it's like we can go to a workshop and be fired up, and then a month later we're back to where we are because the programming hasn't changed. So that is, I guess, both sides. And I think if you rub shoulders and become what you hang around, you know, if you put yourself in environments with personal development and, you know, business development, it helps grow you as a person, which helps grow your business and everybody around you. So a bit of both, really. I hope I've answered that question.
Oh, yeah, you did, absolutely. I was listening to a coaching podcast this morning, and it just had the most profound message that it was something that bizarrely had never occurred to me. And the coach said, there's 3 people that need your help. There's one person you loathe, you hate them, they've done something terrible to you. There's somebody that's a stranger, and there's someone that's your best friend. Who are you going to help first? And logically we would say, well, of course I want to help my best friend. But then his next step was, okay, so if you want to lose weight, for example, why do you start with the goal that is, I'm fat, I'm obese, I'm unhealthy, I hate this? why not say, actually, I really love the way I look and I'd like to treat myself in a better way? Or if it's about your business, I love my business, I love where I've come to thus far, as opposed to, I'm struggling, it's terrible, I'm in that death wobble stage again. So changing that mindset to make that thing you want to change to your best friend as opposed to your enemy or something that you don't really need to do. I just found that such a really great prompt to be thinking.
It is a great prompt, and sadly, 80 to 90% of our thoughts are negative ones, and we can only think one thing at any one time, and we beat ourselves up. We're our own worst critic a lot of the time, as we, it's that voice in our head that's always talking to us, and to try and flip that and change that, that takes conscious work and commitment to be able to do that. But the more that, it's like a muscle. If you don't use it, you lose it. And the more you use it, the stronger it gets. So it's just a practice like anything else. I mean, we have good, Scotty's good systems and practices. And the more that we do that stuff, the more that, it strengthens and we become better.
Yeah. I
was just going to say, 90% of the people we connect with small business, they often ask the question, what government funding is out there, what government support is out there. I feel as though only a very small percentage of businesses are probably eligible for some sort of funding. Do you agree, or?
Oh, look, it really shifted during the bushfires and then in COVID. So there was a lot more money coming into the more commercial marketplace than there was before. But what you said before is quite correct. I come across a lot of either individuals in community type programs or businesses that will look down that let's establish a not-for-profit path so we can get more access to grants and funding. And I always say to them, and I write about it quite regularly as well, there are over 600,000 not-for-profits in Australia alone. And if you want to go ahead and go to the pain of setting up a committee, doing your reporting, staying compliant, generally I think that it's not the best pathway to go. There's a magic word in grant writing which is called auspicing. So if you are, let's say your business offers professional development courses, and you might say, well, we want to go out and work with ABC, a particular group, maybe disengaged kids in school. I wouldn't recommend that you go and set up your own not-for-profit to do that. What I would recommend is that you find a already existing not-for-profit that's a youth group or a council or a school, and you make a partnership with them and you ask them to auspice a grant for you. So they will then use their not-for-profit status to be able to do that, and you can then work with them. So I really see that idea and that mindset of setting up not-for-profit after not-for-profit as being clutter in the marketplace, and I don't think it's necessary. Because if you've ever seen an organisation go belly up, particularly an organisation that's purpose-built and was driven to meet somebody's passion, it's heartbreaking to see people going through that situation, and I really like to not see it. Auspicing is a key word for you to understand. You usually pay an admin fee of between 15 to 25%, but in my mind, it's worth every penny.
Great tip.
And another one for you, Kerry, the challenge of, diversifying. You spoke before about, if you're lucky enough to tap into government grants and contracts, you can't rely on them. You also need to, and Scotty often talks about developing those different streams of income. I think one of the challenges is, how much time is how do you free up that extra bit of time to then look at diversifying your business?
So what question is it, Courtney? Is it how do you find the time to write the grants, or how do you find the time to auspice your business, to diversify?
Probably more about finding the time to diversify your business. You got your head stuck in a grant and you're trying to fulfill the outcomes of that grant, but then you're trying to free up time to also look into other income streams so that you're not 100% reliant on those grants.
Yeah, it's really hard. My business, Evolve Network, while it wasn't necessarily government grants we were relying on, our clients are not-for-profit organisations, so they're relying on government grants. So quite often we'd be delivering services that are to meet their government grants. And there was a time in the Australian economy when the essentially the state government dumped an enormous amount of staff, and a lot of them became my business's competitors potentially. So the first lesson I had was, how can I actually collaborate with these people? So I made partnerships with a lot of them who came on for different projects to work with me. But the next thing was I decided, because fundamentally it's very linked to the conversation we had the other day, Lynda, I worked out that the deepest problems in our communities are never going to be changed by grants. And I honestly believe that they're going to be changed when people's mindset changes so that they want to live a better life. So I went and studied life coaching, and I thought that that'd be a great way. So I'm going to be a coach and I'm going to coach everybody. Well, Coffs Harbour didn't understand what life coaching was when I started to deliver the service. So I was juggling my clients. I was a very small business. I had a couple of contractors. I had 3 kids under 10, and I was really trying to diversify the business with this new service, and people didn't want the product. So it was a really, really challenging time in my business to do things. And one mistake I made in that was I didn't leave the products in the marketplace for long enough for them to stick. That was a really big mistake. And the second mistake, I've had nearly 20 years worth of making mistakes and bouncing back from them. Probably the other thing that was a mistake was I was too hard on myself for it not working, because again, I just didn't trust my business and what it could do, because it's very much based around my principles and my values, and I will always have customers. I know to believe that now. But that time management part, Courtney, so you're doing the product and the business and the service development at the same as actually delivering at the same time. It can be really exhaustive. So because I have so many ideas, it's hard to stay on top of them all sometimes. So I've found having a good, and my electronic system still isn't as good as I want it to be, but having a really good project management system, so that can stay on top of ideas, but also learning to I've actually got an ideas folder now. So I don't try and diversify and create everything at once. I do one thing, well, maybe a couple, but I do a couple of things at a time instead of 100 things at a time, which is what I used to do.
And I guess it's not just the grants thing, the private clients, some private clients are big clients. If you lose that client, you kind of need to have the diversification to shift in another direction. I guess it's just that it's finding that perfect balance between focusing on, dealing with those existing clients, but then also developing other streams of income.
It's hard. Yeah. Well, that's what we juggle as small business owners, isn't it? Is we have to juggle all of those different balls all at once. And, people talk about hustling, and I've never really gelled with the concept of hustling, because I don't like going out and hustling for business. What I like doing is building really solid relationships so that people know that I'm the person to come to solve that problem, and then I don't have to hustle. And that frees up a whole lot of time.
Absolutely. It comes back to that authenticity too that was mentioned in the last one of the podcasts today. Is like you do you, everyone else is taken. You shouldn't need to hustle. If you just know who you are and be you, people will like you, like the know, like and trust factor really. Get to know you. You don't need to hustle. It is about building those relationships and believing in yourself. You've got something to offer. I think everyone's got gifts that they can offer, and everyone, in their business has, why they've ended up gravitating to whatever it is that they do. They're obviously good at it, or they have a passion with it. So, give yourself some credit and believe in yourself. And like you said, with that podcast you listen to, talk and be friends with yourself and, and attack things that way.
Can I ask a general question? We've got the grant writer, one who's on grants with all the entrepreneurships and the all your stuff. By the way, Lynda's been excellent. I'm a bit in your side here, and I'm actually against grants. I couldn't think of anything worse than applying for a grant. It's the last thing I'd ever do. But what I tend to notice, being around Courtney, who's got the Entrepreneur Facilitators program, is a lot of people come in with the attitude, and I hear it in private enterprise just as much as here. Well, what can I get? Is their attitude? Can I get an angel investor? Can I get a government grant? What can I? Instead of, they want to get stuff so their business will be successful, rather than saying, well, what do I need to do? What have I actually got to physically go out and do? And how do I build my business? And how do I get clients and sales and do all that? So I'm not a big fan of going out and chasing the free money to get the business going if you can't get the business going in the first place. So that's a bit of my mindset, where I agree with Lynda on that side of things. And you almost said it when you first started, Kerry. But you said 90% of people have that attitude, Courtney, when they come in about government money. It could be because you're a government-funded organisation, you probably get more. But I hear it all the time. I just had a conversation the other day with someone who's not looking for a government grant. I think he might have been as well. But anyway, he wanted investors in his business. And I'm thinking, well, why are you giving away your business? If it's any good, why are you going to give it away? Well, shouldn't you get all the benefit and all the return if it was any good in the first place? So what's your think of all three of you on that?
I guess for me, as an entrepreneur, you beg, borrow and steal wherever you can. I'd set up and sold a business, and as difficult as it was, I loved business. I wanted to stay in business. So I established this business that I'm currently running, and started working with clients, and was fortunate enough that a contract came up, and I threw my hat in the ring for it, and was fortunate enough, to land the contract, whether it was a government contract, whatever. But for me, it was just about doing whatever I could to stay, in business, just prevent myself from having to go back and work for the man. But yeah, you're right. I think that there is a very small percentage of businesses that can probably tap into it. If there is something there, find out what you can about it and throw your hat in the ring. But I certainly think, Scotty, I love your approach to business, and that, you've worked with me with various clients, and that whole just get it to market, just get it to market and meet people and build connections and establish the business that way. But it's a huge challenge. I think we joke about your apprenticeship selling door-to-door insurance, but I think that's a huge skill for business, to be able to just walk in cold and connect with people and sell a product. It's a huge challenge. So but my advice, if something's out there, go for it.
My advice is to do the work. There's in my observation, we could potentially work with, there's about 18,500 businesses in my region, and I don't have time to sit and hold somebody's hand while they go through very fundamental steps that they could get the tips from YouTube or somewhere else. So I've actually formed a list of points that I'll send to people, because I get asked every day, can you come and help me with my business? And I'll send them back a list of points that will give them very good relevant information about, you can go here, here, or here, or here. And if they do those things, I'm so happy to help those people, because I know that they have the grit to actually do something. Because if you haven't got grit, there's no point in being in business, honestly. You'll get kicked to the curb and you will end up another, upset, sad person. Business is so hard, and I like to see people doing the work. As down as I sound on grants, I'll apply for grants again in the future if it's right, if it's the right grant, the right time, doesn't take my business off in a completely different direction. But it's certainly not something I'll focus on as being my core focus of raising revenue. It will be an addition, not this is how I do my core business.
I guess for me, my little motto is helping people achieve the things they thought were never possible. And I also get people to get clear around what it is that they want, and are they prepared to do what it takes to have that? And like you talked about with the grit, I think sometimes it's a wish of something that we're wanting, or always trying to find the easy way, but also being a solopreneur as well. I think it's good to ask for help, learn to ask for help. You're not expected to know everything, so of course we're going to want to ask for help. And I think we do have to do some of that work and take responsibility ourselves too, and put a bit of an effort into ourselves and our own lives. That's investing in you. What you put in, you're going to get back. And also what you put into other people. Karma's got to look after itself. So yeah, I guess, have you got the grit? Are you prepared to do what it takes? Don't try and set a goal that's unrealistic. Set one that's a stretch, but also put something out there that you are prepared to commit to. Yeah,
good. It's a bit of that can-do attitude, which is excellent. We'll go around the room and make sure everyone's done their 2 tips again, then we'll move into, there's a couple of good questions in here we'll try and cover, so we still run on time. All right, so who was the first one again? It was you, wasn't it, Kerry? So what were your 2 tips?
Oh, Courtney was first.
Oh, Courtney was. There you go.
So my tip was, get some events into your business. Use them to grow your business. 2021. And, you know, have a purpose for your events, whether it's staff development or whether it's product development or building clientele. You know, we spoke about the sales funnel earlier. Certainly for us, you know, events are part of that sales funnel. It's kind of getting people into our zone, I guess. So yeah, think about incorporate. It doesn't matter what you do. You know, we've got Scotty and I here at the hub. There's a great accountant that works out of the space here. They're using events to, I guess, add value to their clients and, you know, exceed their clients' expectations. And it doesn't matter with retail, whatever you're in. I think you can be incorporating events into what you do in business. And so that's it. Yeah, tip number one, get some events into your business. Tip number two is with your events, leverage partnerships, leverage, you know, collaborations, leverage other events that are happening around the region. And yeah.
Mine, actually, I had a comment first via 6 Degrees. You said relationship building is hustle disguised as a house pet, which I think is kind of cute, but you got to know my house pets are alpacas. So, and just another point as well, government tenders, I don't see them in the same light as grants. They're actually quite a different thing, and there are quite a lot of good resources that you can jump onto. Just send me a message if you'd like it, so that you can keep an eye on government tenders as they come through, because that could be a way for you to get into their procurement channels, which again, a bit different to grants. So my top 2 tips were be prepared and make sure that you have your grant writing kit ready to go, and also know when the grant is right for you.
Excellent. I'll jump in now. So my 2 tips were, one was I look at the 5 key areas of life mastery, and the one that I focused on was business and career mastery. And we were talking about business development and mainly your business today. But just to mention, the other one is self-mastery. There's relationship mastery. There's money mastery, as well as health mastery as well. So how you do one thing's how you do everything. It's like a piece of the pie. So if a piece is missing, it's no longer whole. So we like that balance between all those things. Also, my second point is values in relation to your goals. So wanting to have that values alignment, understanding what values are and if there's any conflicts in them, and making sure that your lifestyle values your business values fit into your lifestyle values, because you do want to have that work-life balance. And knowing what the business values are, what's important to you, where you often spend your time, and also with your lifestyle, the same thing, and make sure that they're sort of matching and fitting in with each other. That's me.
Awesome. So a little bit of Q&A. Damien, Kerry will probably help you out with some of the grants. You guys can reach out to each other afterwards. So yeah, certainly that's what Kerry does. She can steer you in the right direction of where to find some of that information. Erica has asked about grant writing only in Australia. I assume your specialty is obviously domestic, but in principle it probably doesn't change anywhere. But your specialty, I'll let you answer that. Is it domestic?
Mine mainly relevant to Australia, yeah, but the techniques are the same internationally. It's just the sources and the types of grants that are viable.
I would say it'd be the same technique if you're looking for investors, right? It's the same thing. It's just either government money or private equity money, but you've got to be prepared. So writing a grant is no different to, I would suggest, or very similar in principle, to putting a package together for investors. It's just who's giving you the money at the end. So I would suggest your tips about investing is exactly the same for the grant writers or the investing. Yeah. But 6 Degrees is asked around the room here. So how did 2020 COVID developments impact your mindset? What did 2020 teach you? What have you taken into this year and beyond? Big question. Sorry, not sorry. So I'll repeat that. It's good questions. So I'll let you sum these up. They're excellent questions. How did 2020 COVID developments impact your mindset? What did 2020 teach you? And what have you taken into this year and beyond? Who wants to go first?
I guess.
You go, Courtney.
The last question, what will we take into 2021 after last year? As much as I love, these sessions and Zoom sessions, for me, it's about being able to connect personally with people. It was something we kind of missed last year. And don't get me wrong, we got to do it to a certain extent. You did other things like more social media or whatever to get the word out about what you're doing. But for me, you know, nothing can really replace sitting down and having a coffee with someone and building a relationship that way. So for me, coming into 2021, fingers crossed, more events that, you know, restrictions will allow us to have more in-person events, but also really that personal connection with people as well. But don't get me wrong, you know, the thing I love about, you know, what we took out of last year with Zoom and all that was the ability to connect with people all around the globe, you know, from your office. So I think that's also been great too. But, and, you know, I guess it's, you know, it teaches you about that whole business mindset. Yeah, like I say, there are people who came out the end of last year who had a great year. There are other people who closed their doors, and some people struggled, and some industries, such as the event industry, really didn't have much to pivot, you know, nowhere to really pivot to, but definitely it reinforced that business mindset and just how important it is to keep it positive.
2020 for me was a year that I really stepped into my position as a leader in our community, and it was a big deal for me to do that. So I'd actually closed our physical office 6 months before COVID hit, and I had to fight very hard for that to happen. But not only had we saved a lot of money, of course, when COVID came, we were already prepared and ready. And I could see the writing on the wall, not for COVID, but for that to be a more sensible way to make the organisation work. And as I really unpacked that through the year, it occurred to me that although my mindset might be a bit different to my predecessors or other people that are directly around me, I do know where I want to take things, and I can see what the future of employment and the future of business is looking like, particularly in our regional community. And because I'd gone from having 50 nights away from home in 2019 to 4 away in 2020, I decided at that point that I really needed to find the network that would support me in my new thinking and my ability to get rid of that Aussie tall poppy thing that tells me I'm up myself if I say I'm a leader, and ditch that and hang around with some people that can really build that up, which is, I mean, why finding, you know, you and your network, Scotty, is such a godsend as well. And it also taught me a lot about personal care. So I did actually have a period of time of burnout at the end of 2020 because I have all these ideas and just keep working. And I've really had to bring into 2021 time to stop and time to spend time with my kids and enjoy the beautiful environment that I'm living in. And that's not something that comes naturally to me because I would just keep working. So I have to focus really hard. I want to focus really hard on that. Yeah.
Excellent. I guess 2020 was interesting with COVID hitting, and just myself included and my clients. I mean, initially it's very easy to go into fear, and I always say to people, there's fear or faith. Take your own advice, Lynda, you know. And so I said to my clients at the beginning when it all hit, okay, what are your 3 main concerns and what are your 3 main fears? And then what are your 3 opportunities? And really getting people to take stock and step back and actually look at their life and go, hang on a minute, what can I do here? For myself, I went through a whole rebranding process. It really helped me sort of really think about what it is I teach and how I teach it. And, you know, look at the online side of the business, which is something I've been wanting to do. And it kind of forced me into action in a really good way. Social media is something I'm still learning and getting on board with. And that's something I'm needing to sort of master this year. I've been putting on the back burner, thankfully, because a lot of my referrals are normally word of mouth, but I'm missing out on helping and sharing and teaching people. So really just taking stock, noticing, are you coming out of fear or are you coming out of faith? And just trust yourself, believe in yourself. Talk to that little positive part of you.
Oh, good for this, eh? I mean, what a session. I mean, this is the business end of the business now, right? You know, so you've done everything else and now it's the business of the business. And it's the part that makes and breaks. Now, they say there's some stat about, you know, how many people are successful in business after 2 years, right? So starting getting some results, some traction, and then what? And so some awesome advice around the room. So it's been excellent. I'm not sure whether I'm supposed to answer that question or not, but, you know, I mean, COVID developments impacted my mindset. I mean, I just sort of swung into action and started doing more of this sort of thing. And then next thing you know, boom, I had another business up and running. Bit of a habit for me. So I started off with the hub here in Sawtell, and that impacted us because we had to shut it down. So we had a networking, co-working space here. And I mean, did it impact the business of that business? Yeah, absolutely. It just shut down. I mean, I had tenants that couldn't pay rent. There was all sorts of stress going on. So my mindset was about doubling down, going, well, what other opportunities are there? And all of a sudden, you know, I've been in this speaking knowledge-based economy now for about 2 years. So I just went to the next level with it and created what you're all looking at today. And it's only the beginning. We only launched really System 1357 in January 2021, and you're all seeing the very first event. So I'll be forever grateful. But, you know, the advice that everyone's given today has been so good, you know. So we started off with all the marketing with Anthony, Rob and Kath. I mean, that was such a good session. Then we moved into the next phase of, if we want to go through a bit of a process here, into the sales. There was some really cool stuff with the sales that Brian, Erica and Marie brought up. So that was epic. Into the next phase, which is, you know, going to be in the people business, right? And we're all in the people business, whether we like it or not. So into you guys with all your business development and sticking in business and staying in business and growing businesses. I mean, business is never easy. And, you know, but at the same time, if anyone ever asked me, you know, Scott, I'm thinking about starting a business, what do you think? I always say start a business. Always start a business. Doesn't mean it's easy, but here's the only caveat with starting a business and growing a business, that you're going to get paid what you're worth. So if you want to go the extra mile and you're in business for yourself, you can go the extra mile and get all those benefits. And but the caveat is you are going to get what you're worth. But you might just have a goal of doing getting into business, having a job, and only doing 20 or 30 hours a week. Well, that's okay, because that's your goal, that's your objective. You can't do that if you work for the man, right? So, but I always say, yes, get into business for all the right reasons, and that way you can get paid what you're worth. But some really good questions in here. We're going to run out of time. Any final thoughts for you guys as we wrap up the last session of our first webinar for 2021? Any final thoughts?
I just want to say again, thank you, Scotty. I love what you're doing and the energy that you bring, and you share so generously with all of us. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Kerry said. I think business, for a lot of us, we're solopreneurs. You know, we work on our own, and surrounding yourself with great is part of what it's all about and part of success. So, you know, this is what today is all about. And so, yeah, thanks, Scotty, for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks again, Scotty, too. And just everyone, just to ask for help. Don't be afraid. Be vulnerable, because a lot of people, you know, are struggling with the same thing that you are too, and people are generally happy to help. I'm sure if someone asks you a question, you're more than happy to help them, and just think of it the same way for yourself. So reach out, ask, build relationships and grow.
Awesome. Well, thanks to everyone for the panelists, but more importantly, thanks for everyone who's been a guest today. You know, it's come and gone, and people have had agendas. 4 hours was a long time. I was probably going to need a haircut by the time it had finished, so sit there and watch my hair grow. It's that short. But seriously, it was 4 hours was a long. It was never intended to be 4 hours full, although more than welcome for everyone to attend. It was about people picking their sessions and really creating some momentum as we move into 2021 for everybody, and really, you know, get that momentum elastic band effect so people can go and launch into whatever they want to launch into for the rest of the year. So hopefully we've achieved that objective, but we can't do it without the speakers and the panelists coming on. So thank you all. And obviously with the guests that have come along and registered and be involved, forever grateful for everyone that's participated in every which way. So that wraps us up. All right, everyone. Thanks for coming. We'll see you on the other side. And just make sure you follow all the panelists, look at what they do, reach out to them for more help and support anytime you need them, because that's exactly what they're here for. See you, everyone.
Bye, everyone.